The divisional round of the playoffs is in the books, and there was a lot that went down this weekend. The Packers beat the Rams, the Bills shut down the Ravens' offense, and the Chiefs escaped the Browns. We're going to discuss every game in depth and teams' futures going forward. For the teams that were eliminated, we will discuss their future, and for the teams that won, we will discuss their playoff future and how the next few weeks will go out and predict that for them. Now, before we get started, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as each only take a second to do, and it would be very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And we're going in order of the games played this weekend, so we start with the Rams-Packers game. The Packers had a bye week in the wildcard round of the playoffs, and the Rams, as we know, were playing in back-to-back Saturdays, given they beat Seattle in the opening round. For this game, to me at least, it never really seemed that close, as the Packers had multiple double-digit leads, and the closest the Rams got was a touchdown. Jared Goff threw for 174 yards and a touchdown, and if you would have said before the game that's what he was going to throw for, then predictably, most people would have said the Rams were going to lose, which, as we know, they did. There cannot be enough good things said about rookie running back Cam Akers, as he again had a good game, and he is the future Rams running back. As we said, we will discuss teams eliminated going forward, and if there is one thing to take away from the last really month and a half for the Rams, then this is definitely one of those things to take away. Since December 10th against the Patriots, he had two 100-yard rushing games, with one of them being a 171-yard performance in his first ever playoff game against Seattle. There are a lot of players to like on this Rams team, especially on defense, with players like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, but unfortunately for those two, they don't make up the entire defense. This game felt like the Packers controlled it from the start, and they did control a large majority, as they had 36 minutes time of possession compared to the Rams' 24. Now for the Packers and their future for the next few weeks. Aaron Rodgers played good on Saturdays, either for nearly 300 yards, 296 to be exact, and 2 touchdowns, and had a nice rushing touchdown in a pump fake that got Leonard Floyd to jump out of his shoes. This team played very well, and the first round bye showed how critical it can be for a team to get an extra week of rest. They were refreshed, and what's particularly great for their defense is they've played just 24 minutes of football in 3 weeks leading up to the NFC Championship game. They got all of their backs going, which, as we said for a while, is a key for postseason success, because very rarely in 2020 does a running back get 30 to 35 carries and truly carry a team to a championship, much less one with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. The Packers played a near flawless game and were clearly the deserved team to go to the conference championship. A good way for them to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl would be to continue running the football the way they did against the Rams, as when they run the ball like that, especially in the elements of Lambeau Field, they are a very tough team to beat, and it showed on Saturday. The next game we're going to discuss is the Ravens-Bills game, and there is a lot to discuss here, despite it not being the most exciting game in the world. So we start with this, when this game is the topic at hand. Lamar Jackson is not the reason the Ravens lost. The Ravens did a lot of good things on Saturday night, they just couldn't capitalize offensively, and as we saw with them putting up just 3 points, it showed. They had 150 yards rushing as a team, averaged nearly 5 yards per carry, and held the ball for over 35 minutes of the game. I can't imagine having all 3 of those things happen in a game for a team, very often too much in NFL history, where that team lost. This was a game where the final score, and the final deficit really of 14 points, was a lot further than what the score was and how the game was played. Now, I'm not saying, the Bills got lucky that Lamar got a concussion and they got lucky that Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals, because they did play good defensively, don't get it wrong. But going forward, the Ravens have to do some things before getting better if they want to win the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson as their quarterback. As we said before, good for Lamar for winning his first playoff game in the wildcard round against the Titans, but the Ravens receivers were limited against the Bills corners on Saturday night. And for as good of a franchise as the Ravens have been since they've been a franchise, 1996 to be exact, the one thing they have never been able to do is draft a receiver. Marquise Brown isn't a bad player, to be clear, but there have been other young receivers from the 2019 and 2020 draft that have played good and have far outproduced Hollywood, and this isn't to fully blame Marquise because they play in a run-heavy offense, so statistically he probably will not ever be a 100-catch, 1,300-yard, 10-touchdown player, but there's times in games where the Ravens need to convert critical third-down plays, and a lot of the time they are unable to do so. The receivers Lamar was throwing to on Saturday were Hollywood, Devin Duvernay, Dez Bryant, and James Proche, and Willie Snead, and to say that's a bottom-tier receiving core would be putting it lightly. They also have Mark Andrews, but he doesn't make up for just how bad those receivers are. But looking ahead, if the Ravens draft one in the first round, then they're going to be that much closer to a championship. And to be clear, for as critical as I've been on the Ravens receivers, they were not the only problem or the only reason they lost against Buffalo. The offensive line all year has been a train wreck, and it didn't help that Ronnie Stanley went down earlier in the year with a severe injury. Nobody's fault, as injuries happen in the NFL, but obviously a Pro Bowl left tackle going down will affect a team over the course of a year. And now for Buffalo. They won, which is the ultimate end goal of any playoff team, no matter how good or how ugly the performance is. Stephon Diggs had another touchdown and another 100-yard game, and John Brown played solid too. Undoubtedly, the turning point of this game was the 101-yard pick six, and when that happened, it all but sealed Buffalo's victory. To be that far in the red zone, having already missed 2 kicks, and to come away a third time with 0 points was a dagger for Baltimore that they could not overcome. And Bills Mafia, despite waiting over 25 years for a playoff win, just may be in store for a trip to the Super Bowl. Next is the Browns-Chiefs game, and this was a dagger of a loss for the Browns. Of course, we will discuss the Patrick Mahomes injury and the aftermath of that, but we have to discuss everything leading up to it first. The Browns targeted Nick Chubb for what seemed like a lot in the first half, and he dropped what seemed like several passes. I didn't completely understand the decision to keep doing that, and by the way, for anyone wondering, he only received 5 targets and had 2 catches for 4 yards, but it seemed like it was more than that in real time. Anyways, the Browns averaged over 5 yards per carry as a unit, and the game changed a few times on them because the logical approach to hearing that would be to question why they didn't run the ball more or say something along these lines. But the Browns had an extremely tough break at the end of the first half when Rashard Higgins fumbled the ball out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. Now, this is a rule that may be changed when the NFL has their meetings in the offseason, similar to how we've seen them do before with pass interference and overtime rules, due to a previous rule having a big impact on a playoff game. This was an extremely tough break for a team that was probably going to make it 16-10 at half, or at worst 19-10 at half, but instead went into intermission down 19-3. Not only that, but Daniel Sorensen had a peak lead with the helmet play, and while that's not reviewable, that may get changed too in the offseason. The penalty that should have been called and a dumb rule cost the Browns some points, and there is zero doubt about that. Now, the Browns played a game where they could have won, and what's tough is giving up a huge run to Chad Henne on 3rd down, only for them to pull a signature Chiefs play, a quick out to Tyreek, for a 1st down with the season on the line. And now for Patrick Mahomes. So that obviously was rough to watch, as he got up and stumbled around and didn't return. Now, I'm not a doctor, but what I'm going to say is this. Andy Reid said after the game he was fine and coherent, and with next week being the AFC Championship game, I don't have any doubt he will play. The season and the back-to-back Super Bowl champs is on the line, and what I'm saying is Mahomes, one way or another, will get cleared. If this was a Week 5 game, he may not, because again, none of us know how bad he is at this moment in time, or how good he is at this moment in time, but for the AFC Championship game, he will play, and I don't have any doubt about it. Whether he should or not is another thing, but strictly talking about him playing or not playing, I think he will, and we will have a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes AFC Championship game. Now for the final game of the divisional round, which was the Bucs and the Saints. So this was Drew Brees' final game, and at least it looks more that way as of now, because remember, he hasn't officially announced it. But it was obvious Drew Brees was a fraction of the player he was in his prime, as he can't throw the ball that far, and his arm strength has definitely deteriorated over the past few years. He is a legend and a first ballot Hall of Famer without a single doubt, and the NFL will certainly miss him. Tom is the last player remaining from the early 2000s era, assuming Phillip retires, that is, but this was signature Tom Brady, where he loses in the regular season, and then as we saw on Sunday night, gets the last laugh in the playoffs. But going further on the Saints and Michael Thomas. For as vocal as he is and for as noisy as he is on social media, this was more than a poor performance on Sunday, as he dropped a donut, meaning 0, in a playoff game with the season and Drew Brees' career on the line, in his final game to be clear, not his legacy or anything like that. He was getting clowned on social media, Michael Thomas that is, and rightfully so, given he was the 2019 Offensive Player of the Year and broke the single season receptions record, only to produce 0 catches for 0 yards in a playoff playoff game. I will get into rankings in the offseason, but all I'm saying is do not expect him to be high on the list after his performance. Anyways, the Bucs played a really good game defensively, as if it weren't for a busted coverage against Traquan Smith when Jameis Winston came into quarterback, or poor punt coverage in the first half, this game could have been a lot worse on the scoreboard than it was. And this is a quick side note, but going forward, whoever the Saints plan to play at quarterback, I fully expect Alvin Kamara to be the feature back and expect him to receive a lot more touches than what he currently does. As of now, he has never had 200 carries in a season, and while he is a terrific receiving back, I do expect that to change moving forward. More carries, that is, not less targets or anything like that. But the Bucs will play the Packers in the NFC Championship game, and for the first time ever, we will have a Tom versus Aaron playoff game. This is one football fans have wanted for some time, and I truly cannot wait to see how it goes next Sunday. Now, with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did and are still watching, I appreciate the time out of your day. Please like the video and subscribe if you're still here. I would very much appreciate that, and I will see you guys next time. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.